So they have little, like, their eggs that turn to embryos, and so they're in that little pouch. They usually have around, like,
This is a Mysis diluviana. It's a small freshwater shrimp plucked from the depths of Lake Champlain. Researchers at the University of Vermont are hoping that studying the tiny crustacean will lead to big results.
We saw that mysis have declined almost tenfold in the past 37 years, and it really happened right after the invasion of zebra mussels into the lake. So,
Suzanne Ball is reproducing a study that was originally done in 1975 about the overall population and health of mysis in the lake. Others at UVM are also studying the creature, with the goal of gaining insight into the lake's current health.
They're a really important prey species in the lake. They're omnivorous, and they affect a lot of different trophic levels in the lake. They prey on a lot of different zooplankton species and are also an important food item for fish like alewife and smelt and lake trout.
Ball has been doing this research for the past year. At the end of her study, she'll produce a paper with her results, with the hope of publishing it in a scientific journal. Well, that's not an unusual destination for the kind of paper Ball is planning to write. What is unusual is that Ball is still an undergraduate.
Undergraduate research for us is really outside the classroom.
Ann Lerner is the director of UVM's Office of Undergraduate Research, which supports a variety of research projects, such as Ball's, throughout the university.
We get students from across campus, so they can be in biology, psychology, the art department. I've got some English students doing some really interesting things this year. They're everywhere.
Support from the Office of Undergraduate Research might be anything from helping students find a project to work on, or a faculty advisor for their own research, to giving grants for travel, basic supplies, and other costs.
It's extracurricular. You know, it's something that they do above and beyond. It's not a basic expectation for all students, but we do encourage all students to kind of consider it as an option.
To highlight the students' work, the Office of Undergraduate Research holds an annual student research conference. Any UVM student working on a research or creative project can present their findings there, usually as a talk or informational poster, but the occasional music or dance performance is not uncommon. Over 300 students presented their work last year.
It's such a highlight of the year, and it's an important piece for what this office does, because it is that kind of culmination of what the students are doing, and it's another way to sort of point the students who haven't gotten involved yet. They can wander through the conference and they can see, oh wow, I could do this. I'm a nursing student. I could go to Bangladesh and I could do research while I'm there.
I presented sort of an introduction to mysis, an introduction to this divergence in the behavior, and then an overall method section of what I plan to do, how I'm going to do my sampling, what time of day, what data I'm going to collect, and that kind of stuff. And then what we sort of expect as potential results to test our hypotheses.
Peter Euclid is getting his Master's of Science from the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources. He gave a talk at the conference about his research on mysis in Lake Champlain, in a session that included a range of topics from around campus. The student who presented before Euclid was pre-med.
He was doing something with brain aneurysms and stroke, and the person after me was doing a very social aspect, sort of science, where she was looking at women farmers groups here and in South America, and a very broad spectrum, but both presentations were good and pretty interesting.
They're engaging in true research. They ask a question, they gather data, they try to build this on their own. And it's always a wild ride, because you never know if you're going to get to an expected outcome. And so in that way, they learn a completely new set of ways of looking at the world, ways of sort of thinking about their discipline.
To get students right as first-year students is great, because we can train them up. They'll be here for another 3 years.
Jason Stockwell is a professor in the Rubenstein School.
The research they do is fundamental to doing science, and it's basically hands-on experience that they're basically developing their skill sets, not only their physical skill sets in terms of how do you measure this or count that, but also their mental skill sets and how do you formulate a hypothesis, how do you ask a question, how do you ask a question in a way that you can actually test it.
Stockwell is the advisor for several undergraduate and graduate students who are doing research on mysis and Lake Champlain. He says that being involved in these projects gives students a taste of the life of a researcher, as well as the skills. That can be a huge head start for those who pursue a career in the sciences.
So they've been involved right from the get-go on their project all the way designing it. They've been responsible for collecting the data on the field. They've had great experience on our research vessel. They're in the lab doing the analyses and the processing. They're analyzing the data and they're writing everything from start to finish. So they will have a complete research experience by the time they leave here.
That research experience will be just the beginning for many of these students.
I plan on staying around universities. I really enjoy research, so I'll probably stay sort of in the ecology field, or that's my hope at least, either with lakes or streams, probably. So yeah, I'll be around boats and water and that kind of sampling, hopefully for my whole life.
From the field to the classroom, and everywhere in between. UVM's Office of Undergraduate Research helps students get results. In Burlington, I'm Rebecca Gullen with Across the Fence.